His first
I love
release to
Apollo
where
autos.
he ended up being in Smite 1. He actually got a lot of quality of life improvements over the time. He got new ways of getting his audacity up. He got just lots of utility. His the amount of utility he has is really, really insane. And so when we looked at Apollo to kind of +1 him, it was actually really difficult to find a spot. So most of his kit is pretty much identical because we think his audacity loop feels really good. He has enough ways to build it up that are really interesting. His one is a straight damage source ability, just feels good to use. The mesmerize utility, the dash utility.
His
the
one
team
is probably the most
utility,
comfortable
global
feeling
presence,
lane
they're all
clears for a
really,
hunter.
really good.
It's like him or
if
on
we
her
were to
too.
+1, it had a very high risk of just bloating him. So we focused on something that was a bit just kind of new rather than just being a let's just make this ability more powerful. And so some people
Wheeler
already
one?
kind of guessed
You're just an
because
Wheeler player.
of things that they know ahead of time. Apollo's ult is the place where we did the +1.
And disclaimer,
we can't
chat.
show it.
We can't show it, but disclaimer that there are still a few things that are temp in what we're showing off today.
Yes.
This is an early look, so when I show you the ultimate, there are going to be some temp effects on some stuff. So
So obviously temp effects, they'll be there. We're working on getting them all fixed up today. But his ultimate will actually now allow people to travel with him in the chariot. So there's a few rules on this. So
Oh no, his autos
ult,
look a little
you raise
weird.
Circle. That circle is going to be replaced with a VFX. It's basically like a hey, everyone get in, ride the chariot with me.
He
When
can
they actually
pick up
interact with it,
teammates.
interact to get into it, he'll turn into a ball of light, kind of like how Athena, when she turns into, she dashes with the one, she can turn into a ball of light. You turn the ball of light and you basically ride along with the chariot, and then when he lands, you'll eject wherever he lands as close as possible to where like you're offset left a little bit to him when you're like flying as a ball. You'll land to the left of him in the ball. So he can actually take people across now. So if you're in duo lane and there's a fight breaking out that you feel like, oh, there's like 3 people 3v3 in mids happening right now. We actually want to go join that. You can take your support with you. You could
No way, man.
You could do a lot of different things with this. And
Bro,
we felt like
Apollo
this was a cool
support
way to
is
make
gonna
people
be
feel like it has more
busted.
team presence.
Arrows
And
bow
it's
Apollo
not
support.
Just a strict all the time buff to a kit that already has a lot of stuff going on.
yes. And I am in dev cheat mode right now, so I have infinite mana. Did we end up making it so that it does cost more mana if you're ferrying people?
It's not in yet, but that will be. So balance considerations, because obviously being able to take people with you, you can only take 2 people with you. You can take 5 or 4. You can only take 2. When you take people, the mana cost that you will take will be increased, and that's just the way that I was going to implement it was, and it's just again not in yet. Is if you decide to take 1 person, it's just a flat amount more. If you take 2, it's the same amount, just because I want the penalty to be pretty aggressive so that even if you take 1 person, it feels pretty impactful.
Good.
If I had that scale with 2, you probably just go instantly, which I don't think really feels that fun. So finding the balance between the fun and the balance of the effect.
I hope
you will take more mana.
I told them
if
it should
we also have a
be-
lot of other knobs we can turn depending on how strong this is, because this is one of our first worries when we first got it in was, is this going to potentially like just fundamentally break the game in a way that people have really hard times playing around? Other things we can do if it is OP is also slow him down. We can make it.
That was my idea. I told them in Discord, I think that they should slow him down.
So you gotta,
That makes
Like
sense.
physically, the
so we have a
character
lot of
should
knobs
be
to turn. The first one
slower,
we're gonna do is
having
mana
multiple
cost
people with
everybody,
them.
But
But
this is just
it's
really
still cool.
team utility. And Apollo's base kit, we just focused on really making sure that the base kit felt fluid, felt good, worked as you expected, had good feedback on it, because largely we think his kit stands kind of as is.
His ult looks like so much
kits like that
smoother
where
taking
their
off
kit
and
kinda
landing.
holds up to the test of time. We think Apollo's one of them, so we think this +1 is just interesting.
Yeah, and I would say in our dev test, we've had some interesting, like, oh, there's a couple people that are trying to push down our Phoenix. Somebody has to back to stop that, and then they hop in the chariot and they go to Fire Giant or something, right? So there's a lot of like macro play that you can do that's really interesting.
Yeah. Or you can take your ally to a fight and then lose a 3v1 like happened in our playtest.
Yes, we have done
the game
that.
can snowball pretty badly from that point, but lots of fun stuff you can do with him.
But other than that, you know, he's kind of the Apollo you know and love, right? He's got these basic attacks that build up his audacity passive, and once it gets to here, I gotta go. Actually, I should spawn a bot. That would be a smarter way of doing this. Once you get to 10 stacks, then your next 5 autos are faster.
Yep, 100% attack speed with those 5 autos. Also, one other
having uncapped attack speed also for Apollo in Smite 2 is going to be really good.
I've talked with Kellen a little bit about making,
because Apollo used to always cap
his
his
ult sound and
attacks.
New sound has a lot of like clinking metal that some people didn't necessarily like, but the ult sound is pretty hollow and it doesn't have much oomph to it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna look at trying to make a nice balance between the two rather than just reverting to old Apollo sound, but that's not in yet. So yeah. Also, the VFX package, if you use his abilities, like if you just use his 2, uses 3, you can see he has a lot of really cool VFX.
That too looks awesome.
That happen at the end. So that looked like a 16th note. Yeah, 16.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Got a little treble clef, bass clef.
It
Okay, sorry.
changes the note?
I play guitar,
That
so I
is
can't
so
actually
sick.
read music. I can just read tab.
But yeah, it's just a lot of really cool touches to his kit, and obviously we still have some stuff we need to do. But
Yeah, and even the
he's
dash
looking really good.
just like looks good, feels good. I think that we did a really good job on these effects of making really clear like where you're hitting and where you're not hitting.
Yeah.
Like the edges of the effects are very clean without being overwhelming. I love this like little like buff that's the little like whatever that buff
yeah,
is.
so that buff is, I just fixed that earlier.
Okay.
That's the
Looks so
it's his
good.
protection buff. It's supposed to be around him, but
Yeah.
it's on the floor right now because sockets are weird.
Yeah, and we
thought it was
still are a
movement
little ways
speed.
out from this actually going live. We're just giving you guys an early look.
JK, thank you for the gift.
Yeah.
Sub.
Is there a way to stop people from doing it? Nope, there is
call
not a
make
way to stop.
gifted
Because
a tier
it's one of
1
those things
sub
that's
to
like, how would you
invading
actually
Zim.
stop people
They have
from
given
doing it?
499
they have to
gift
come over
subs
here
in
and
the
interact
chat.
with you, right?
Yeah.
It's like
what the
sometimes
fuck?
it's like, especially with teams that aren't paying attention, it's like, please come with me, please. Sometimes they don't. So
And the
it
gifted
does
sub to
require your teammates to pay
Lababaloo.
attention.
Thank you.
Uber driver
So
Apollo
fucking
skin.
tasty, you know what I'm saying?
Yesterday's MS
I
is
call
just
make
yeah, he
gifted
was
a tier
freeing
1
the
sub
minions
to
and they were talking about
Lababaloo.
giving protections. That's
They
movement
have
speed.
given
Cool, yeah, so
500
that's
gift subs
Apollo,
in
he's
the
pretty
channel.
straightforward.
Hey,
but he
thank
is,
you,
he
JK,
does
the
what it says on the tin.
500.
He is Apollo. He plays like Apollo. He feels good. He's been good in our play tests. I have been blown up by him many times recently.
Yeah.
But Aspect Apollo is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Can I switch to Aspect?
Yeah, you can
what's
it's
the
just
command?
test talent, space Apollo _ talent _
Space Apollo. There we go. Okay. Aspect of Harmony.
Yep, aspect of harmony. So
Should I just mouse over this, or you want to talk about it
yeah,
before I mouse?
you can mouse over it so you can read through it. So I'll just read through it. Audacity now grants free So Beautiful cast, but no attack speed. So Beautiful scales with item health, lowers enemy attack speed, and grants nearby allies attack speed on god or boss hits, but deals less base damage. Serenade now shields nearby allies, but applies no protections, and buffing an ally grants Audacity attack. So I actually changed that. I need to update the text. Serenade will grant shields, and while they're shielded, they will have the protections, but once the shield breaks, they lose those protections. So need to update there. But basically, the idea here is that this is support Apollo aspect.
Bro, this with
so,
his new ult is going to be
He's
insane.
a high utility hunter in general. Having an
220?
AoE
What does it
CC
scale
res
with?
Is pretty tanky. It's good tank utility. Having a dash that knocks people up is really good utility.
What
Having a dash that
does the
slows people and gives like a 6-second movement speed buff is really good. And so we wanted to play with that more. So the idea here is that you can build up your Audacity by actually buffing your teammates, and we made buffs more applicable and added new ones. So you can see there, as you use your 1, you hit and a flying note goes flying to them. That's an attack speed buff for them.
Bro, that's
You
so
apply attack speed
sick!
Slow to the enemy. Your 2 gives a shield to your teammates and does the normal mez stuff. That counts as a buff. Your 3 also gives a buff. Every time you give a buff or do any of the normal things to get Audacity stacks, you get Audacity stacks. And you can see here that he actually...
Dude.
I have infinite cooldowns on, so it's hard to see, I guess.
Well, actually, you're actually showing it just fine
cool.
here, because what ends up happening is when you get to 10 Audacity, your icon changes. That's your free one, but you can start building toward your next one right now. So you can see here that you're actually building toward your next. So if you just keep auto attacking and get go to 10 again, you actually chill at 10, and then you can so beautiful, and that will actually be a real thing you can do in game.
That's pretty cool.
Very strong.
Dude,
So
the
Beautiful
noises are
scales not
so
physical
nice.
power. It scales entirely off max health from items.
Okay, so you want to be building a lot of health items if you're
Yep.
playing support aspect Apollo.
Yep, you build your Gauntlet of Thieves is going to be really core on him. Health item is going to be really core on him, and then your focus is really to buff your teammates, bring that buffing utility. We had this the idea of him being a bard, right? Like that's really where the inspiration for this came from.
Yeah.
Is he does all
So
the musical things.
sick,
he
man.
He play the classic bard role.
There were a lot of like supporty elements to his kit already,
Yeah.
especially with the taxi ultimate, right? I think that also ties a little bit
Did
more
they
to
answer?
the
I don't
support
think they answered.
play style. I mean, it works as a hunter, but it also is interesting in a support kind of play style. So
Yeah. And then some people were already mentioning one of the things we also discussed with the Apollo +1 was, does this make Horus useless when he ends up coming into the game? Horus ult was already something I wanted to take another stab at when we get to him. I was the actual designer on Horus, and
good job, one of my favorites.
He's a really fun character. The kind
Wait.
of dropship ultimate was really, really cool, But there is some clunk to there. I think there's some things that we can do to make that more fluid. I think we can make it more cool for him to just use on his own. That's where I would have most of my +1 ideas for him anyway. So I think we're going to be able to do pretty good differentiation.
So it scales with health from items? The one scales with health from items. They haven't mentioned the two.
It's still a lot more surprising than Apollo's is, and it can actually move like Apollo. So I think we have some room for differentiation there.
So a lot of fun stuff here. I think everybody's excited about both Apollo and Apollo's aspect.
Yep.
But there's more stuff to show off before we leave the map and go out of game. We have, I'm going to show off a cosmetic thing that is a new cosmetic that we've added to the game.
Okay.
Just because I have it equipped.
More cosmetics.
There's a
Taxi on alt is on non-aspect also.
Where we now have 2 different skins for your teleport effects.
Oh, cool.
And they're 2 different versions of the same fireball. So this is a red fireball instead of your purple ball. There's also a blue one. They come in a bundle. I think it's priced right around $10. I don't want to. Don't get me wrong. But just a fun new little supporter store item that the dev team was able to get in. So.
It is always crazy because I'll come on these shows and I'll watch these shows and you think that I would know everything coming into a patch, but I have no idea. So that's cool. That's neat.
So we have that. And then the other thing that we need to show before we leave in-game here is that we have some new items.
Yes, we have 5 new items.
5 is a lot.
Coming to OV10.
5 new items. I know
now that because we have 5 new items, there is not a second new aspect.
Correct.
This update.
Yeah.
We decided to put the dev time into making more items because we thought that would have more of an impact on the game. Right.
Yeah, and you'll see when we show off the items why
mage
I
items
feel like they're gonna have the most impact and why we want to focus our time.
Tank
there.
items.
We're also going to try something.
And maybe another ADC item with some attack speed.
Their release. So there's going to be a few ones that we want to come.
So I want an ADC item with attack speed, like attack speed oriented. I want a mage item that's not just build intelligence, and I want some tank items. I just want to talk about all the 5 new items quick, because I think that's the only real part that I care about outside of like Apollo. Contagion is a new item. It is 2150 gold, so it's pretty cheap. Gives you 500 health, 6 health regen. 500 health sounds like a lot, but you kind of have to like rewire what you think of health and protections and builds. For the most part, I mean, 500 is still pretty high. The health regen is kind of like the bigger part for like laning phase. Having 6 health regen just right off the rip will just be really good for sustain. But the passive is the really exciting part. And I think the part that's kind of flying under the radar also is if an enemy uses an ability while afflicted, your cooldowns are reduced by 0.25. If you get like a 3-4 man ultimate, or sorry, 3-4 man contagion, your ability cooldowns will just be like kind of kicking back up really quickly. So I like contagion. I like the idea behind it. I still think healing is an issue, and I think that they kind of have to nerf healing like off the top end by a good amount. But I think this is a really cool item. Next up is erosion. It is a I don't remember. I think it's 2400, 2450, something like that. It's 25 prots, 15 magical protections, 250 health, and any shields applied on enemy gods within 11.2 meters will be reduced by 30%. Whenever this effect occurs, you gain 10% of your protections for 6. Yeah, 10% of your protections for 6 seconds. I also don't know how all these percentages are going to like stack on top of each other. Because if it's like, if you're sitting at 200 and you get, 30% more, putting it up to 260, and then you get 30% more, is it going to be like additive where it's just 60% more, or is it going to be 30% and then another 30% on your previous one? Either way, I think this is a good item. Shielding is a little too insane in the game. I think this is a good addition. Next up, Freya's Tears. The only one that I think is pretty underwhelming. Each time you lose 25% of your health, and this is like a 2600 gold item. 20 fizz protections, 25 magical protections for a 20 cooldown rate. So I think it's statted pretty poorly. It's also pretty expensive, and I think the passive is mediocre at best. Each time you lose 25% of your health, you gain a bonus of 50% protections from items. This lasts for 5 seconds and can stack twice. It's kind of supposed to be like a Spirit Robe-esque item, but instead of, CC hitting you, it's damage hitting you. I think the problem is most of the value you're going to get from this item starts happening when you only have 75% of your max health. So that first 25% of your max health is just going to be gone, eviscerated, and then you'll start seeing a little bit of value. But we'll see. Maybe there's some way to make it work if you go like this in Spirit Robe and you can kind of eat a lot of damage and sustain it up with Spirit Robe. Next is Draconic Scale, which is a 2700 cost item. It is statted fine. 20 protections, 20 magical protections, 300 max health for 2,700 gold. Like, it's okay. It's just really expensive. Each time you take damage from a god, gain 2 plus 3% bonus item protections against that damage type. So this is the first one that's bonus item protections. So your base 80 protections and your base 70 protections later in the game, you're not getting value from that. It's just from protections that you're, actively getting. This is a pretty interesting item because it's also got a little bit of base numbers. I could see maybe that, kicks up your numbers just a little bit more to make it a little bit better. The problem with Draconic Scale is when you go to the later portions of the game, a lot of your survivability comes from juking abilities / autos, or just not getting hit from them. Having to get hit and having to get consistently hit every 1.5 seconds is going to be a little awkward. It does decay at only 1 rather than, fully being removed after 1.5 seconds. So you might lose 1 and then gain it back. So it's a little risky to kind of play with, but I'm curious how this one works. It's 21% bonus item protections for both physical and magical that they stack separately. So this could be a lot better if you're playing against just one damage type. And I think that's kind of like the positive thing with a lot of this is if you are playing against just one, only strength building, only physical damage gods or only magical, you can actually get to a high number of just one potentially. And then lastly, Dwarven Plate, probably my favorite of all of them. It is an active. It is 30 protections of each, so it's decently high protections. You gain additional physical protection equal to 12.5% of your physical protections from items, and you gain additional magical protections equal to 25% of your magical protections from items. The active portion of it is you gain, or you switch the protection bonus. So instead of 12.5 for physical, you can make it 25 for physical and 12.5 for magical, which is really interesting. Later into the game, you can kind of play around, I want to dive the physical gods, so I'm going to make it physically and just try to juke all the magicals or whatever it is. Or maybe you're playing against a Bari and an Anubis and you don't care about those physical protections. You just care about the magical protections. I think this is an exciting one. I think my only issue, this is cool. This will help supports a lot. I still think there's an issue in solo lane where tanks just aren't going to be able to do anything in that lane. They won't be able to farm. They won't be able to fight. This will help like supports in the late game. And, if you play like tank junglers where you don't need to worry about clearing waves as much, these could be really exciting items. The worry is that I don't think any of these really help solo too much because solos didn't really have too much of a problem late game. It was like that earlier middle portions of the game where they just can't farm and they can't fight. But still cool, still exciting items that are getting added. And I'm curious to see what they do with balance now also tomorrow.